What's up, guys? We're back, as always, for the podcast. I'm here with my heterosexual life partner, Rob. I'm joined by Dave from Snips Movies, who's one of the last DVD and Blu-ray rental shops in the UK. Do you want to take it away, Rob?
Yeah, so basically, for people who don't know, so Chad and I, a couple of months ago, we went to visit Dave Wayne, in his shop in, I'm going to say, is it right, Dave, Port Sunlight?
Bevington, but
Bevington, which is on the Wirral in the UK. How many are left of DVD rental Blu-ray shops in the UK?
Well, there's two, essentially, roughly. I mean, there are two places in the UK that specialise in DVD rental. And that's 20th Century Flicks, they're in Bristol, and there's us. I mean, there are other video shops scattered around the country that, maybe don't perhaps have kind of quantities. They deal in a more chart-based selection. But for us, I mean, we're on 14,000 films, and Bristol is about 21,000 films. So, I mean, we're the last two sort of guys and girls who really do specialize in films. So, yeah, I'd say two, roughly.
So where did it all begin? Because I know when we visited you, you sort of told us a bit of a brief history about like how it all started. And to our surprise, it didn't start with you, did it? It started before you with your father. Is that correct?
It's not that interesting, to be honest. It was fortuitous. Everything you tend to do, all the good things in life tend to happen as a kind of fortuitous scenario, in that we had a guy next door who was just like behind my back, adjacent to this building, and he ran a video store. He was the local video guy. He ran a video butcher, which is a great combination. Videos and butchery. It's a match made in heaven.
It is.
I do like a sausage with my DVD.
Well, there you go.
Superb. And when you used to rent like a copy of Nightmare on Elm Street 3, you'd open, you'd open the box and you could, smell it inside, smell of raw sausage, which was really appealing. Anyway, he was like advancing in years, first generation video store owner. And so it was time for him to retire. And we were doing stuff in here. We've had this place for 40 something years. Wow. And we decided to have a bit of a change in respect to what we did here. I was like, knee high to a grasshopper, maybe a bit bigger. My dad thought, well, okay, let's have a go with the video rental business. Because at that time, you could do that. It was the mid-90s. There was like, in this little village alone, there were a load of other video stores as well. So it was no big deal, really. It was a safe bet to transfer the 200-300 videos that he had next door and just rent them out. So that was it, really. And that just carried on for a few years. I went to university, which was obviously, for this was an ideal background. Then I got a job working at Blockbuster about 5 years. And then through working at Blockbuster, it gave me the perfect experience of how not to run a video store. So I thought, great. So let me take that experience of how not to do things and how not to run a video store, and let's try and do something a little bit different here. So 20 years ago, I came here and I thought, well, what people want really is choice. They don't want to be like sort of driven like cattle or sheep down a certain path into what, a sort of narrow-minded viewpoint of what they should be renting. They want a selection. They want to choose films from, 1915 or 2015. They don't want just 116 copies of Titanic or whatever the film was at the time. People like choice. They don't want, lots of the same thing. Or maybe they do.
That was something. When we first came into the shop, so have you ever seen the Criterion sort of library?
I love those. Oh yeah, the Criterion Closet. Yeah, they're brilliant.
That's what it felt like when I walked in. It felt like the Criterion Closet because I sort of walked in.
We should have done a video. We could have done like our own version of the Criterion Closet. I thought,
well, do you know what?
I always
That's the
thought that'd be
sort
really cool to do with customers. You could customers in, follow them around with like a camera and kind of do a sort of your own version of the video store Criterion Closet. I thought that'd be quite cool.
Well, when we come back, we'll do that because, like I say, I mean, when I walked in, I mean, the choice that we saw.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew there was a lot because we spoke before, and you said there was about, I think, maybe 13 to 14,000 titles, and I thought to myself, oh, that's a lot, obviously. But when I walked in, I don't think I really expected it to be as big as I mean, I walked in and I thought, the first feeling I had was I was basically back as being a kid again. That's the feeling I had.
I get you.
Because I thought, even though I wasn't renting anything or anything like that, because we came to visit you, but I thought, I'm back in that place again. And I straight away got giddy, and I thought, hang on, I've got to play it coolly. I need to speak to Dave and, introduce myself and things like that. But I was hooked in the moment and the experience of being in, it's not like going into HMV, it's not like going into a secondhand DVD Blu-ray store like CEX. It's literally just like it was something special that because obviously you have it laid out a certain way. Yes. You've got it in genres because you and Chad had a great chat about horror films. I
was like Augustus Gloop in Willy Wonka. I was just like going around, like just looking at all your wares, pulling things out. Yeah, that's what she said. I had a great time in there. You had so many films. Like I think at one point we were talking about the Herschel Gordon Lewis box set you have in there. And I think it was just like I think we spent like 20 minutes talking about that, and I could have stayed in there all day talking with you. It's a shame we live so far away.
Well, we will visit more. That's the thing. But like I say, I mean that's the experience that we get. And so, do you have people who've sort of got to know you from social media who've done something similar that have come to see the shop and things like that?
Yeah, we've had loads of things done. Really, people have called in from far and wide. I mean, I've got customers that drive an hour just to come here. Around a couple of homes. One guy comes from Oswestry, which for context is about an hour away. And he comes up every 2 weeks, rents 6 movies, and then takes them back. Then comes back in 2 weeks later, which is great. Because it's brilliant to have that further reach. I mean, 20 years ago, you were dealing with people that lived in the next street or the next road or the next village. You wouldn't go further than there. But now it's a very different scenario in that we need people from further afield because the people in the next road, they're sat at home, watching Netflix and that, which is fair enough, pays your money and takes your choice. But it's a shame that they're sort of, that they've fallen into that trap. But, that's people for you.
So what is the standard price then, if you don't mind me asking, of so is a DVD the same price as renting a Blu-ray? Because I do know you rent Blu-rays there as well.
Yeah. I mean, if you come in this week and you rent Venom, which is obviously the brand new film of the week, that's £2.50, which isn't a lot. I mean, if you go onto Amazon Prime right now, or you go onto Sky Go, and you want to rent that film, it's twice the price. It's £5 or £5.50. That's a lot of money,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Well, especially for one showing.
They're rigid with that. They're rigid. You pay that money, you've got to see it in that time frame. You can't get on the phone to Jeff Bezos. When you got 10 minutes to run, the kid's been sick, the dog's throwing up in the laundry. You can't get on the phone to Jeff Bezos and say, sorry, Jeff, I just need about 10 more minutes just to finish that film. Just let me get to the end of it. You can't do that. 48 hours, it's gone. That's it. But here you got that flexibility,
So is there a time limit on when you have to have because usually I know Blockbuster, I mean, you'll know this better than I will, but I think it was I think a new release on the first week was within 24 hours.
Yeah, but that was 20 years ago. You've got to adapt. You've got to adapt. You can't. I mean, 40 years ago when video stores first started, 35 years ago, you used to have to pay a membership fee. Imagine doing that now in 2022. That would just be insane. So you have to adapt. You have to be more flexible. And that's what we've done. No late fees. There's very flexible renting policy. Anything over a certain time limit, you can pretty much take and return it when you're done with it. And you have to do that because people don't have those lives anymore. You can't be stood outside with a stopwatch at 6 o'clock the following day. And then, fining people. I mean, they used to fine people for not rewinding the tape.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
That's insane. But, that's the way things were. And we've had to change.
because obviously certain different stores or rental shops had different sort of rules, didn't they, to their thing? Because I mean, so but for example, like so if a customer buys like the new, so if they bought Venom or rented Venom today, would they like what is there a time limit on that because it's a new release? So obviously people might be it's in more demand, isn't it?
People on the whole are decent, considerate human beings. They know like how we need to make money and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, you would suggest that they can return it the next day if possible. If they can't, it's fine. The next day after that is not a problem.
No.
So, you've got to have a degree of flexibility. Plus, your customers, you've got relationships with them. You can trust them. So it's fostering that kind of relationship and friendship with the people that pay your wages. So it's nice to have a laid back environment. People don't want that kind of a rigid fascism that comes with the old video store routine. They want something. And that again, that sort of fuels my hatred of nostalgia. I mean, I understand that people are very nostalgic about video stores. And that was probably your feeling when you came in. It was probably wow, this takes me back to 20, 30 years ago. But what I'm trying to sort of put onto people is that it's not like it used to be. It's very different now. We can happily exist alongside big people like Netflix and Amazon and Shudder and whoever, because they don't care so much about films, and we do. And for people who really care about films, then perhaps we're the best destination. That's not to suggest I'm trying to establish a monopoly on this, because I'm not. I have Netflix and Prime and Shudder and all that kind of stuff, but they can all work together. You don't have to shop at Tesco. You can shop at Asda as well. You don't have to be loyal to any kind of supermarket, and that exists with films. So everyone can take a piece of everything that works well.
That's the beauty of social media as well, because now, I suppose, like back in the day, like you said, you have your locals. And they would be your benchmark basically for being who would basically rent your movies on a regular basis. But if you've got people who are not obviously too far away but close enough to come and rent, then obviously on social media you can promote it a bit more, and it's a bit more easier to get the word out that you exist and about what you offer. About obviously you're offering a service to people.
It is to a degree, but then again, 20 years ago you would look for a video store. Yeah. Would you look for a video store today? Well, no, you wouldn't, because you wouldn't expect one to exist. And that's the problem we have. So, whereby people might happily or begrudgingly pay, your $5.50 to rent your Venom this week. They might not think, you know what? I wonder if we can get that cheaper elsewhere, because they don't know of an alternative. And you can bang the drum on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, which is great. It brings in a lot of people, but there'll always be that section of society that just don't presume that there is a well-loaded video shop sat on the corner of the street, a mile down the road.
Do you keep more than one copy? So have you got more than one copy of Venom, or is that just the one copy? Yes. How many do you normally stock, roughly?
Well, going back used to be like double figures, but now you've got to wind it into 3-4 copies of the big films, because the business is there, but the business has adapted slightly. Maybe a few years back we were making a lot of money off brand new releases. They were our core business. The people renting those were your Joe Public, your people who want to rent a movie on a Friday night, watch a bus jump over a train, and they'd be happy. But nowadays, those people are quite happy to sort of sit at home and maybe rely on the product that other sites have got. They're not specifically geared to having the latest film that week. They just want to, they'll watch any old shit. But with the way it's changed is that we've got more of a clientele that like older films. So we've seen that real shift in the dynamic a great deal already. A lot of our customers now come in and just rent, the classic films. So the Criterion, Indicator, 88, Arrow, Blu-rays, that kind of thing. And they come in with their lists, 5, 6, 8, 10 films, and they'll just gradually pick them off the shelves and take them home for a week or two.
I imagine with the amount of, like, say, films that you have in your store, then, like, say, I imagine the odds are quite good that you're going to have them, whatever list they bring in, that you will actually have it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But, I always ask for people, we've got a database online, which is attached to our Instagram page that tells you every film we have in the shop. But I always say that if people can't find something they're looking for, then please, let me know. Because, yeah, it's a good selection, but I'm not some kind of cinematic wizard. I don't know everything. I've got a lot of shortcomings. So I love it when people come in and they say, well, I checked your database and you haven't got, I don't know, the spiral staircase or something like that, and we haven't. So actively trying to get that. I mean, we'll always have issues with regard to availability. Films are notoriously hard to find now compared to they were 10 years ago. Because they go out of print so quickly. So certainly catalog titles. But yeah, always looking to expand and get great ideas from customers. Plus, it's great. It's a great conversation. Someone coming in and suggesting something. Isn't it wonderful? Not relying on me. It's great to learn things. And you can always learn things off your customers. You shouldn't presume to be some kind of deity that knows sort of every single answer about every single film. And I think that's what does cause a lot of people to stop coming in that they feel a bit intimidated. They feel as though they kind of, they see all the films and they think, oh, I don't need that amount of choice. I just want to slap on Netflix and them to tell me what to watch, which is fair enough. Everyone's different, I suppose.
But that I find an issue with, because I think a lot of people do. I think we've spoken about this before, Chad, and when the worst thing sometimes on a weekday or a weekend and you're trying to choose a movie, I think by the time you've chosen a movie, you've been taken so long in trying to find it, you're ready to go to bed.
Time for sleep, yeah.
And I hate that, because that means I'd rather basically have something, because back in the day when I would rent something or buy something now, at least then I know what I've got. Yeah. So I would basically choose it beforehand and say, right, that's what I'm going to watch. But I think the average Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus person will flick through the catalogue. And in a way, it's like that's like watching a film to them, probably, by just flicking through the catalogue. Where really, it's like, no, you need to actually pick one.
It's absolutely exhausting, and you don't feel the investment. When you're taking something home physically in your hands, and you've got to load it into the DVD player, Blu-ray player, doesn't it? There's a commitment there. You are committed, or maybe you should be committed. You are committed to purchase or rent that title. So you've done that. You've done the hard part. You've been to the store. You've driven home with it. It's sat on the coffee table. So now you're going to make the effort to put it in the machine. And I think that when you do that, you have a commitment to see it through to the end. Well, unless it's the remake of Footloose or something. But on Netflix, there isn't that commitment. You just it's kind of easy to press like the backup button after 20 minutes and just give up and say, no, that's not really my thing. I'll just move on to the next thing. And it's a bit of a concern, really.
What annoys me about the streaming services as well, I'll always find, I was going to rewatch the Howling films, and I've only got the first one on DVD, but Amazon's got the Howling 3 to 6 on there. But it's for people that don't collect movies like us, who's going to start on Howling 3? Because Howling 3, the marsupials, is shite. It's a bad film. And if you watch that film, you're not going to be like, I'm going to go back and watch Howling 1. Because it just makes no sense. Like you were saying, if you got it in your hand, you've got the Howl, you're not going to go straight into the shop and go, I'll start on Howling 3, the marsupials, because it's shite, Rob. That's why.
It's a cost of it as well. Amazon now, more and more, they're looking to monetize every single film. Gone are the days where you would pay your $7.99 to Prime, and you would then be, able to sample the entire catalog. They're monetizing more and more films. So you'll find that films like Howling 3 are $3.49 with a shitty standard definition print on there. And you think, well, hang on, why would you pay $3.49 to watch a really crappy, almost a VHS transfer of Howling 3 when you can come down to the video store and rent it on Blu-ray? It's just insane. Rent it for £1.67, no less, half the price, which is just bonkers. But it's not just that. It's the cost of Netflix, which goes up every year. It's the cost of the other streaming sites that go up every year. By the time you subscribe to Netflix and Mubi and Shudder and Disney Plus and Prime, and you got your Sky account, you're looking at, how is a kid who's really getting into films, 16, 17, 18, how's a kid going to get into films nowadays? How is that going to happen?
Yeah.
We were lucky, and again, I don't want to seem nostalgic like how it was great back in the day, because it really wasn't so wonderful. It is a bit rose-tinted glasses. But you look at kids nowadays, this next generation, and they just haven't. The cost of it is so prohibitive, and you think, well, they can't just wander into a bricks and mortar store and just take their pick. I had a kid join. I think he was about 18, 19, a couple of weekends ago. And he came up and he landed 6 films on the counter. 6 films, first rental. And he said, these are on my list. I've been looking for these everywhere on Prime and Netflix, and I can't find them. And so I've had to get the bus all the way here just to rent these films. And I thought it was tremendous. I mean, really ambitious, really sort of showed his commitment. But it's crazy. It makes me worried for like a new generation trying to discover films or trying to get into films, because I don't think that they can do it to the same extent that we did. And I'm terrified of them missing out, really.
Going back to the nostalgic thing, see, for me, when I mentioned about being like completely and utterly, like excited by being in there, it wasn't just because of going back to the time. Obviously that plays a part in it. But what I love about movies, and what I loved about movies back then especially, more so now I suppose because you have so much available to help you find things, but discovery was something that I loved, and I still love now, because from knowing yourself, Chad, I'm learning more about films in other genres that I never knew about before. And like I say, and that's what I loved about going into the shop, because I was straight away looking at like the trauma section. Now I know trauma. I know
Trauma.
Trauma. I am. What's that word?
A novice.
A novice in that genre. But again, I'm like, well, tell me more about
Toxic Avenger.
Or is it Lloyd?
Lloyd Kaufman.
Lloyd Kaufman and things like that. You see, and that's what I love, because.
Or Yeti, a Love Story. One of.
There you go.
Superb film. Yeah.
Yeti Love Story, superb film. Best sentence ever. Best sentence on this podcast.
Another great film, which was acquired by Troma about 10 years ago, is The Taint, on Blu-ray. Really great film, really cool, sort of punky film. Really like that. But no, you're right, because I do find that we're anti-algorithm. You're pushed down a rabbit hole on streaming platforms, and you're not liberated. Here, you can pick up, Venom. You can rent Venom, and then you can go and rent Toby Hooper's Crocodile. You're not conditioned. If you rent Venom on Netflix, you'll be pushed into watching. Well, it's not on Netflix, but if you rented a film of that ilk on Netflix, you'll be pushed into a certain direction. You'll be funneled into a certain way of watching your movies, which is fine. It might work for some people, but if you have a broad taste, that just doesn't work,
Of all the love I had for rental stores, I don't really remember personally having anyone who worked there that ever gave me like a recommendation, which is something I really love. I love recommendations from anybody, because that is the beauty of movies, because there's such a vast catalogue in the world of film. You're not going to know everything. No one does. And if they do, then, well, all the more to you. But I just don't think, like I say, it's so important to mix with people. And I never had that. And so I had to discover it on my own by picking up certain videotapes or DVDs, looking at the back, checking directors, actors, and things. And then, they didn't really even have genres sections in Blockbuster. I mean, you might be able to correct me on that, but I don't remember seeing them on that.
Well, only very vague stuff like thriller, drama, comedy, etc., etc. But there's no specifics. I remember working in Blockbuster, and my boss at the time, the area manager, we had one of the old film guides, Hallowell's film guide, maybe one of those, and we just kept a couple above like the counter, just in case anyone came in with a film query, and maybe it was a useful reference tool to answer it. And he came in and he spotted these like reference books above the counter, just grabbed them and just like threw them in the bin. And that kind of epitomizes Blockbuster to me, in that it was all about sort of the popcorn and Coke, trying to sell you that, than it was about the actual films itself. We used to get a report down every couple of weeks that would show us films that weren't renting, i.e. films that weren't making money. And, you'd read that report, it'd be stuff like I don't know, Citizen Kane, Annie Hall, Vertigo. And I think, well, yeah, they want to get rid of those. They want to get rid of them because they're not renting, not making money, which is just insane. You can't run like a cultural haven in the prospect of, needing to make money. You can't do that. So I don't care if any of these go out. If I rent one film a day, I'm not really asked, to be honest. But it's the fact that I'm here and I'm available. So if someone somewhere is really into films, then they know where to come.
Exactly. So like I say, you would give them that guidance that some people back in the day might not have had. But like I say, I mean, I don't think they would be intimidated by you at all. I mean, I think they'd be more intrigued to hear your story, really.
Yeah, but I'm not Yoda. I do like people coming in and sort of giving me recommendations. There's nothing better. And luckily, I've got a really cool group of customers that do that. And they come in either with films from their own collection. Some people donate them. And they say, oh, Dave, you've got, a great, I don't know, Ingmar Bergman section. But you haven't got this. Have you ever thought of getting in? And yeah, absolutely. Let's have a go. And that's cool because that's what it's like. It's about community, and it's about friendships, and it's about recommendations, about listening and sharing. So yeah.
I also thought to myself about, so have you got, like, would you know, like, what is the most oddest request you've had at the shop that you've been puzzled on about a film?
Xanadu?
Okay.
No, I don't know.
The Olivia Newton-John? The Olivia Newton-John movie?
Yeah.
How many Xanadus are there?
Zardos?
But no, nothing's weird. I mean, when you have Evil Bong 7.
You mentioned that, didn't you?
Evil Bong's not bad. It's not the worst franchise.
No, exactly. I wrote the official history of the Evil Bong franchise. But no, when you have Evil Bong 7, there are no weird films. So to be honest, no one has really come in with a weird request, only for porn, which of course we don't do. And it's a bit like, do you not have a laptop? But no weird requests, really. People are quite...
I mean, it's still quite weird that have people generally asked you about porn, because that's still a weird thing, because like you said, like it's available on everything, really.
Yeah.
And the thought of someone coming in going, all right, Dave, have you got Backdoor Bangers 7, really confuses me. Because I feel like that shouldn't. I mean, you can Google that. I don't know if that's a real thing, but if it is
that a real film?
Maybe, I don't know. I was a youth once, but yeah, no, I think that's quite a weird thing to do this day and age.
They ask what's under the counter and stuff like that, and sort of nudge, wink, wink. We still have some guys come in and like they read every back of the case, to see the old BBFC guide.
Yeah.
So looking for strong sex.
All right.
Which is fine, I don't mind. I'll take their money. I might disinfect my hands after it, but I'll take their money.
Well, that's the thing, you see, because I mean, with like I say, with the rental shop as well, is that people are obviously coming in, and like I say, you and again, because this is going back to streaming now. That I think bar Netflix, and they're not 100%, but I think the navigation systems on some of these, like Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, they are horrific.
Awful.
Yeah.
Like, and Amazon Prime is especially one of the worst I've ever seen.
Oh, it's awful. I mean, I should be saying this, but I'm thankful for an app called Just Watch. I don't know if you use it.
Dave.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an absolute godsend. You can just, you can type, again, I'm just like killing myself, recommending this. But you can type in any movie. And you can see where it's streaming, and it's great, and it will search every single platform. However, let me just quantify that. If you type in the Cannonball Run, it's not streaming anywhere. You can't stream this film. You can't watch this film online. You can only watch it in your local video store.
My mum brought me the Cannonball Run from a market for 50p.
Well, True Lies, another one. Not streaming on any platform worldwide. You can only rent this in a video store.
And again, that's the mad thing, you see. It's like, because
another one, Cocoon.
Cocoon.
I know everyone's a huge Cocoon fan, especially Cocoon 2. And yeah, again, you can't see it online. You can't stream it. So that's again, it's the fallacy that people come in and they say, sorry to interrupt, people come in, there's a fallacy that people think, oh, why do you exist? Why are you here? How about Netflix? Well, Netflix has 1/5 of the films that we do. And, they're great in some respects. They've got some really cool stuff, but they don't have Cocoon 2.
I hope you say to them, there is no Steve Gutenberg genre anywhere on any platform that I've seen. But if you go to your shop, you might have it.
Exactly.
But like I say, I just can't believe how many times I've gone to find a film, and it's not been on there, and it's quite frustrating because sometimes you'll see it and you'll put it in your list, and let's face it, you put it in the list and you go back to it 6 months later, expecting it to be there, and it's gone, and then you're getting really frustrated. What I do usually, I just tend to go and buy it instead. I'll just go and not rent it, but buy it myself and go, I'll buy it, and then that's it done then. But it's a frustrating experience putting things in lists and then going back to them, forgetting all about them, because I think it's become a bad habit.
But again, that's the irony, in that people are reverting back to having minimalistic households. They don't want collections gathering dust. So many people I've had, we're located quite close to a recycling center, and people are just on their way to the tip with their box of DVDs. They stop in and I'm just going to dispose of these, going to landfill them. Do you want them? And they're the 200 DVDs.
That's the dream, guys. That is the dream.
And you think, that's the common scenario at the moment. People don't want stuff. People don't want stuff lying around their house. They want minimalistic households. They don't want collections. They don't want clutter. So people are getting rid of films that you can't see, and it's the most frustrating thing, because in 2 years' time, that they'll think, they'll speak to their husband or whatever, and they'll say, oh, wouldn't it be great if we saw Cocoon 2? And they'll try and get on Prime or wherever.
I really love how much we've talked about Cocoon 2.
Yeah, but there's been a lot of Cocoon 2 talk.
I'm a big fan of Cocoon: The Return. It's a fantastic movie.
I've never seen either.
Honestly, they're very sci-fi movies, very mushy 80s sort of nostalgic kind of things.
Need to count to 88 films now. That's what we need to talk about.
Yeah, because Dave, so obviously, even though you do obviously have these new titles and you rent them and things like that, but you actually do prefer, you're not someone who focuses on the mainstream movies, are you? You're somebody who likes the movies that no one really talks about often. Is that correct, would you say?
Yeah, well, we've got a book out later this year or early next year, called Schlock and Awe, The Forgotten Films of the 90s Rental Realm. Which is really cool because, it's not cool in a way because, again, to go back in time in the 90s, films were being created in vast quantities for video stores. Thousands upon thousands of films were being created just for the sole purpose of going into video stores. Then DVD came along, 97, 98, 99, and we thought, don't worry, it's fine. Everything will finally come out on DVD at some point, but it didn't. So now we're left in this scenario where we've got 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 films that came out in the 1990s that are now gone. They're gone. They've been lost. Well, not lost, but they're effectively stuck, rotting, decaying, gathering mold on VHS. They've never seen any other format. So what we've done, we've put a book together to discuss, a selection. Hopefully, it'll go into multi-volumes of these films, because we're so passionate about this great era, that decade, that so many great filmmakers, so many great films were made. And again, they've just been forgotten about because they've never made the transition to another format, which is scary.
But it's good in a way, like I say, that you are keeping, I imagine the directors and actors and the production teams of these films were actually quite grateful for your interest in these things, because you're keeping them alive, really, and reminding them.
It can go both ways. I've had a few emails back saying, I would love to speak to you about my film, that kind of thing. But then I've had a few emails back that said, I just want to forget about this. It was a horrible experience, and I'm now a pastor in Nebraska. So, it varies, to be honest.
But you also have, you've done work, haven't you, with 88 films. I remember you mentioning Jean-Claude Van Damme's Replicant.
Yeah, we've done 25 different Blu-ray releases over the years with 88 films, Arrow, Kaleidoscope, Culture Shock, and people like that. We've got, so we've done loads of stuff. We made a full-length documentary which was focused on the great cinematographer Mike Southern, who was DP on the Ken Russell film Gothic, and also the what's the guy's name? The guy that made Bernard Rose. Yeah, Bernard Rose's Paper House. He DP'd Paper House as well. And yeah, we made this great feature-length documentary in lockdown, 75-minute documentary that was on Replicant Blu-ray, all about this man's career. Amazing character, brilliant. Started off in BBC's documentaries, then went on to make music videos. He was DP on From Goes to Hollywood, Relax, and then he went into feature films. So he told his story, and 88 Films were nice enough to put it on their Blu-ray Replicant, which is another film that he was.
That's amazing. So have you got any? Can you talk about any future releases coming up on Blu-ray on some of those labels at all, or are you?
Yes. We have one on Monday.
Oh right.
Which you must buy. I know you've been waiting for it. I know it's a hotly anticipated title. I know you've had sleepless nights dreaming for this film.
It's not Cocoon 2, is it?
Cocoon 3. It doesn't exist.
Steady. Yeah, well, the anticipation, I know. And it is. This is the DVD. But on Monday, Monday gone, it is a DVD of The Mangler. The Blur of The Mangler.
Oh, The Mangler.
The Robert Englund film.
Yeah. Toby Hooper's film, much maligned on release, is finally coming to UK Blu-ray on January the 10th. So that will have just gone. But you must buy it. It's a great issue. It's a great release. So yeah, we've got that coming up. We've got another great project with Arrow later on in the year, which is just the most insane thing you can ever imagine. And 3 more commentaries with 88 that we recorded last year that are due out on Blu-ray this spring and summer.
Oh, fantastic! So obviously is a release date for your book yet, or is there not? Or
no, we've got 2 coming out either the end of this year or the start of next. One, as I said, is Schlock and Awe, the forgotten films of the 90s rental realm, and that is due out. Hopefully, the manuscript is going in September, so I think it's probably going to be next spring. And then there's another book, which is a biography of the great cinematographer Gary Graver, who was well known to be Orson Welles' cinematographer. And so we've done a biography of him, and we've discussed in depth his storied history in the pornography business, which is great.
That's different, isn't it?
Maybe he did Backdoor Bangers 7. Who knows? He could have been the one to. Who knows?
He'll be annoyed that it's already been released.
He did do a spin on Maverick, the Mel Gibson film.
Yes.
Which is called Maverick. I don't know if you've seen that.
Nice. Gene Hackman's in that, isn't he?
Well, someone to look out for. With Danny Glover and James Gardner. But no, that's amazing. So for our viewers, so what are your opening times and days open?
We're open every single day, apart from Wednesday, and usually 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. in the evening.
Well, if anyone listening, if you live in the Wirral area, you need to go and see Dave.
Because that brings us to the end of our viewing, the end of the podcast. I'm not viewing, the end of your viewing. We just want to give a massive thank you to you, Dave. We have sadly cancelled on you 5 times, but you've been a trooper. It's that English gentleman inside you. That's what she said. And thank you so much for coming on. Really, and bearing with our crap.
What we'll do, we will put Dave's links in the bottom of this video.
All the socials and stuff, yeah.
And you can go on the Instagram, you can search what movies you might want to rent.
There you go, yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much for your time, Dave.
Pleasure.
That was amazing speaking to Dave, and we'll definitely be going back there soon. Definitely. Because apparently it's 20 DVDs for £5. I
don't want to hear it.
Oh, and Rob is very excited about that. So yeah, a massive thank you to Dave, and thank you for bearing with us more than anything, because we did cancel, like we said, a couple of times. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and yeah, we love you. See you next time. Bye bye bye!